I'm away into the barn today, but it's not all about the barn today. It's about, what's it called again? May Crowning? May Crowning. Ava's school. It's a graduation thing. Yes, and Addie Bear graduates into grade 1 next year also. So, on our way to the barn today, I want to run through what took place last night. You know, one of those nights, somebody had asked me after, that wasn't in good humor. Somebody asked me after, how'd your night go? Not good. I mean, it wasn't horrible. It was just one of those nights where I thought we had a night where we could make a couple of dents here and there, do some good, and peck away, right? It just didn't work out that way. Save America got away 7th, should have been 5th, really. I want to take a look at his blood again today, and I know all my partners, I'm sure you don't want to hear that, oh my God, it's blood, it's blood, it's blood. Well, and the reality of the situation is, whether it be allergy season that caused a little bit of mucus of blood 3 weeks ago, or whatever it was that caused him to tie up a little bit last week. Somebody said, well, he probably, truthfully, could it have been the trip he got that tied up? That's a great question, and I want everybody to understand the answer to that. No, he tied up days before his race last week. Now, you may hear tied up, if you're an old horseman out there, you might hear tied up, and you say, well, the horse is stiff, and maybe his urine is a little dark. These are telltale signs you should be able to see. 100% they are. But they don't always present like that. A horse like Save America is a big, strong horse. For him to tie up a little bit on training day, go back into a stall, walk out of a stall, quite docile the way he does every day, get put away. The next day, that AST is down to where the rider, he's a quiet, easy jogging horse. Rider probably said he was sound, looked fine. That AST started, that CK is now down to normal a couple of days later. No, it seems okay. Everything seems okay with Save America. I go to post-braid him. I don't rev him up because I just don't want to have him out of his mind going to the gate. All these things allowed it to slip by. Now, even if I saw something in the post-braid, I don't really have anything to compare it to because I'd never driven him before. So, I was a little angry over the entire race 2 weeks ago. Obviously, we talked about that in depth, but it didn't take long to figure out why. The horse had tied up. Now, the reason I know that it was days before, as I've said before, when you draw the horse's blood, there's 2 main levels to horses that tie up. The CK level, which moves quite quickly, and I've discussed this before. The AST level, which is, it takes longer to come down. And CK level goes up quick, comes down quick. The AST level goes up slower. They meet somewhere around the middle, and it comes down slower. Well, Save America's AST was 4,000, yet his CK was very normal after the race, which is an obvious indicator that he had tied up days before. So going into last night, his AST had been down relatively good all week. Jason and Dr. Latessa were working on it, and I can't say that he was horrible. Here's a horse that likes to race up near the pace. Got away 7th, paced 52 and 3 on a half-mile track. That isn't that fast. Maybe that's what he's ready to do last night. I have no idea. But he finished 7th, beat a half a length for 5th. Probably should have been 5th, but didn't race horrible. Draw the inside, get his blood good, then we can race him. I suspect we're not going to see that movie play out at Northfield Park. Jason told me last night he dropped some money. Dropped some money off his program, so he is likely going to be headed to Scioto for his next race. A welcome trip to Scioto. So my night, I wasn't super shocked with the 7th, but a little deflated maybe. Head into Rosean Alexandra. It's a tough group. Tough group. She hasn't proved that she's a stake filly yet in 2025, so I didn't know what to expect. I scored her down. She felt really good, but she was picking at her inside knee more than she was the week before. Was the track a little sandy? Just need a little maintenance work? I'm not really sure. She didn't seem sore or lame or anything to me. Maybe she just needs shot. In the mile, she was at her knee a little bit and ended up mustering a 4th, a pretty paltry 4th in 55 and a piece. She paced 57 and 1. That seems to be where she's hanging out right now, which is not really encouraging from my standpoint. But we'll see how Rosean Alexandra progresses. Her attitude was good. Her work ethic was good. She did what she could, I can tell you that. Just needed to do a little bit more. So a 4th from Rosean Alexandra. My night now, a 4th with a horse that I wasn't certain we could get a check with, and a 7th with a horse that I hoped we would. So wasn't a horrible night. My next race was the one I was really interested in, Gorgeous Package. I scored her down. She was on the right line a little bit more. This is how she was the last time she raced at Northfield Park. Now, she didn't get on that line training the other day, but we trained much slower than we were going to race. I went out of there with her. Right line a little bit, and Brett stretched me around the turn. He was probably trying to get me in behind him, but I couldn't get in behind him. Aaron was there. So I cleared to the front. Same type of thing. I let Danny go, but we were already marching all the way to the quarter. We got up a little quicker than I thought we would, 26-2. It didn't seem super taxing to Gorgeous Package. She followed that filly pretty well. Coming to the half, I know Brett was first over. His filly on paper looked okay, but we were going to get a test. I was going to see how good she was. Aaron's filly looked to have the fresh set of legs, second over, and then Chris Page's horse, I could see, was third over. He looked okay. How was I going to get out of here? Because the horse on the front kind of looked like she was done. Well, getting into the turn, as soon as Aaron, I had to watch. As soon as Aaron flipped 3 wide, he didn't want to let me out of there either. I'm one of the favorites. But when Chris comes 3 wide, Aaron's now, his hand is forced. The second he started to exit the 2 wide lane, I too come off the rail and kind of slid through the middle. As I was sliding through the middle, the horse on the front end kind of ran out a little bit, kind of pulled up a little bit on the front end, to be honest, and hooked my wheel. Now, I was running in a little bit, but he got me pretty good. Hooked my wheel, stopped me. It didn't really matter. I can't really blame him completely, I guess. If he had stayed right along the pylons, I would have got around him. But when he did come out, my wheel get in behind him, stopped Gorgeous Package. She come back pacing. Probably cost me 3rd or 4th, but I ended up 5th. And I had to think going under the wire. 2 things. I don't feel she got around Northfield as well as she got around Miami Valley, that's for sure. She certainly wasn't running in, but she wasn't running in the other day training also, so maybe does she need her knees done? I'm not really sure. The track was pretty firm last night. Maybe her feet were stinging her a little bit. It didn't seem to bother her that much, and I have to know, knowing the filly, I think 26-2 was probably a little too salty for her. Maybe I should have bent her over backwards going into the first turn when I did clear to the front, or take back, or let the horse go much easier than I did. At the time, it felt like everything was going the way it was supposed to go, and it took about half a mile to figure out it wasn't. So, a 5th. She would have been probably 3rd or 4th. I had my momentum stopped, and the horse was already tired. I'm sure I was going to be 4th. It might have been 3rd, but certainly was not going to be a winner. Gorgeous Package raced as well as she could, but I guess in hindsight, maybe I should have just ducked her in the first turn. She'll make her way to the bigger track her next start, where she has been racing good, and I'm sure will race good again. Now we went to Flamborough. My night is not going how I wanted. I envisioned a couple of wins, a couple of really good miles, and a good night at the office. Instead, we've thrown down a 7.45 so far. Now time is on my side, goes on the track. James is driving it from the outside. He knew exactly what he was going to do, almost to a T. Ride the rail, run up the inside, go through some pylons, and hopefully not get thrown out. When I left to go on the track, the inquiry sign was blinking, and it looked to me as if James was going to be set back disqualified. Now, it did get tight in the last turn when Tyler Borth was kind of backing through them. He was kind of down a little bit, which was taking up a little bit of James's position. The reason this is important is you're trying to get around that horse's wheel. You're now right tight to the pylons with the horse that runs in. If he ducks in anymore, you're going to go through the pylons. That's actually interference. That's not just James going through the pylons. So when I came in, it was funny because I was just jogging by the grandstand, and Greg, my old buddy Greg, I feel bad, he came all the way from Philadelphia to watch the races in the Meadows on Saturday, a couple of seconds with a couple of horses that looked like they could win, and then came all the way to Northfield on Sunday to watch at least 2 horses that looked like they could win and a couple that had shot. So it wasn't a great trip for Greg. Well, Greg is kind of jogging down the grandstand saying, they left James up, they said it was interference, blah, blah, blah. That's great. Judges called me after the race. Who are you conversing with in the grandstand? I said, oh, it's my Uncle Greg. He's in for the weekend.
What?
And they said, you can't, just tell Uncle Greg, you can't be conversing in such a manner with the drivers in such a long period of time during the post parades. Now, Northfield would catch something like that. Not a lot of tracks would. I remember as I jogged away from Greg, I'm thinking to myself, I don't know how that was going to be perceived on site. And sure enough, I got a call, but it wasn't a big deal once I explained the situation. But it's just the optics of it, right? It's fine to speak to somebody on the track, but Greg and I had a very long conversation talking about James, and he was telling me something, and I was laughing about it. And anyway, it picked up my night because here I thought I was going to have now I'm getting into a territory where I don't know what kind of night I'm going to have now. James is about to be set back. I don't know if Foxy Seaside is going to get around a half-mile track. So I warmed her up and I let her scoop finishing up her mile into the turn, and she seemed like she was good. Touched her knee a little bit, but it didn't seem to bother her, which was great. I was confident she was going to race well. Made front around the first turn. I figured Brett would be coming. And a funny story, if I'm not mistaken, that filly that won that stake, Brent Hopper and Kyle Gray won 2 races last night. Now, I was happy with the win in one. The second one, not so happy. That was, I believe, Absolute Euphoria's full sister that won that race last night against Foxy Seaside. When he cleared to the front and I was right up in behind him, I thought she was probably a winner. But coming from a big track to a half, off 8 days, training a slow mile in between, shipping over to Ohio, did she with her flip-flops get through the track well? I thought first start in Ohio, very good start on a half-mile track, was actually a good mile for her, just to stab me right in the heart. The last dagger I didn't need last night was getting picked off at the wire by Dan Noble. I heard him coming. I thought Chris was my immediate danger. I heard Danny coming up the inside, but I really didn't think either of them were going to get me. And then right at the wire, last jump, I look over, I'm like, man, oh man, I could hear the announcer say I think he could beat him for second. I was like, man, that is a metaphor for tonight. Nothing went as according to plan. None of them were horrible. Not one horse raced horrible. Just not the night we wanted, right? And I have to, there's always that voice inside me too that reminds me, listen, Anthony, there's going to be times throughout the summer where the burn just can't do anything wrong. Every year, there's a couple of days, 2 or 3 days. We always do good, but there's always a couple of days where just everything clicks. And you just feel unstoppable. Well, there's another side to that coin, right? There's a couple of days where nothing goes perfectly and you just feel obsolete as a driver, or you just feel ordinary as a stable. It's not a good feeling. It's hard to shake sometimes, but it happens. So I dragged my butt out onto the track for greatest ending. I would like to get him to the front, but I know that Justin's going to protect the rail. Ronnie Wren is going to go out of there with Burke's horse. Aaron is going to look to get to Mike. Talk to Mike. Aaron is going to look to get to the outside whenever he can with Corey Kreiser's horse. And it didn't take me long to figure, going around the first turn, I certainly wasn't going to make front. In fact, I wasn't sure Ronnie was going to make front. And then, how can I make it harder for Aaron to win? Now, the easiest way to do that, I should have just stayed too wide and pinned him down to the rail. But I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to be out on dead cover, because what could happen is, what happens if Ronnie's horse just sulks a little bit and starts to back up coming to the half? Aaron slides out in front of him, and now I'm second over in the deadest of dead cover. And that kind of happened anyway, but I had to get out when I did. Aaron now had moved to the outside. I'm following him. I'm following the freshest set of legs. This is the place to be. You do not want to be down to the inside. Aaron moved 3 deep, starting into the backstretch into the 5/8 turn. I tried to follow him. It felt to me getting into the last turn, I couldn't tell if Aaron cleared, and he didn't quite clear. I thought I was a winner getting into the last turn. Greatest ending was marching, running in a bit in the last turn, but that's him. It's not a big deal. We come out of the last turn. Justin had already got the jump on me. I'm like, gee, should I have went left and stayed left at that point? Filed him to the outside, and I thought I was an easy third. He ended up a fourth. But again, just in case I forgot what kind of an ordinary night we had, a beaten fourth with a horse that should have been an easy third, and maybe a good second. Again, I'm not going to say he raced bad, but he raced exactly how everybody else raced. Just so-so. So not the night we wanted, not a horrible night by any stretch. We were 5th in the Juravinsky out of the 8-hole. James did all he could with that horse. Can't wait. What's that? Juravinsky, yeah. You know, the hospital in Hamilton's named after him. Charles Jurvinski. Actually, that's where Addie was born, if I'm not mistaken.
No, she wasn't born.
She was born in Hamilton. She might have. Amy might have originally went to Jurvinski and then went over to the neonatal unit.
No, she didn't. She was born in the.
And I know the one night that I went down to Flamborough and smashed my hip up, hurt my hip a decade ago. I ended up at the Jurvinski Hospital. Anyway, it's named after him and his wife. Very philanthropic.
Who were they?
They both passed, I believe. Charles did.
Were they in horse racing?
They owned Flamborough Downs. Owned a lot of good horses. Owned horses with Harry back when Harry was rolling. And
like Harry that works for us?
Yeah, Harry Polton. Yes, absolutely. Harry had 2 world champions almost back to back, 2 years apart, I think, and 2 horses that, most people strive to have one of those horses in their lifetime. Harry had 2 of them. Matt Scooter and On the Road Again.
Scooter.
Matt Scooter was named. He was a good horse, and the other horse was On the Road Again. Both very, very good horses, and Harry had them both, amongst others. Harry's had a swath of
why
very,
does he
very
work
good
for
horses.
us?
It just, this is what happens. A lot of the trainers, you lose a couple of your owners. All of a sudden, you don't have powerful horses, and okay days turn into bad days, turn into horrible days, and all of a sudden the game becomes a hard place to navigate. So Charles Jurvinski, him and his wife give a lot of money to charity, and
I think I have the same heels, just black.
Yeah.
Oh.
And they named that race after him last night. So the Charles Jurvinski Memorial Race raced last night. Time is on my side, drew the 5-hole and ended up 5th. Raced good. I can't wait to see him in the graduate when it's coming up, though, for James and Harry. I'd love to see what this horse can do racing against him with speed all summer. We're going to see real soon if he's got it. It's going to be a great horse regardless, but if he's got it, if he can race against the best, we'll find out soon. So that was last night. Tonight we only have the 1 starter, Gaslight Hall. He's in the middle of the pack, 5-6 to 1. James thought he raced well last night. We'll see how he races next week. Tuesday we have 6 on tap. Rose Run AJ, Aunt Lily, Freedom Hill, Admiral Dio, Blue Ventura, and Oh Hill No. And then the rest of the week of racing. So that was last night in a nutshell. Not what we wanted, but it wasn't horrible. I will talk to you all very soon. Have a wonderful start to your week. I hope you had a great weekend. Take care.